Hello and welcome to Access Asia. I'm Delano D'Souza. Coming up, India and the EU on the brink of clinching a free trade agreement. Speculation of the deal reaching its final stages comes as New Delhi's negotiations with Washington continue to drag. And with Hollywood's award season in full swing, yet another victory for K-pop and Korea. K-pop Demon Hunters picking up 2 Golden Globes, but the genre facing a slump at home. But first, the European Union and India are reportedly in the final stages of negotiating a free trade agreement. If clinched, the deal could be announced around India's Republic Day celebrations on the 26th of January. News of the two sides nearing that agreement comes as talks between New Delhi and Washington continue to drag. To talk more about this, we can bring in James Crabtree, Distinguished Visiting Fellow at the European Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you so much for joining us on the program. We have a whole host of European leaders who've either visited India or due to visit India in the coming weeks. Emmanuel Macron is in fact going to be there next month. The Europeans seem to be placing a lot of importance on this relationship with New Delhi.
Absolutely. I mean, on both sides, both Europe and India in their own way have big Trump problems. Trump and the United States has been both sides' most important partner in recent years, and both of them are having a pretty rough ride. And so, yes, it's a big play from Europe, but it's also a big play from India. I mean, India is in a difficult position with the Americans and it needs new friends, and the Europeans are the best offer. So at the end of this month, the summit in which Ursula von der Leyen is coming in will be the Republic Day guest in India. It's a pretty big deal and a chance to supercharge what has traditionally been an underperforming relationship.
James, given the current state of the world, are these two sides being pushed closer together?
Pretty much. I mean, I think it's very... Traditionally, the relationship between India and Europe, particularly Brussels, has underperformed. Brussels is a complicated place. India is a hard place to do business with. But in a sense, both sides are in the same problematic situation. And that's true at the European level in Brussels, but it's also true with Chancellor Merz and Macron and Keir Starmer in the United Kingdom, all of whom are courting India. So in a sense, both India and Europe need new friends in a Trump world, and that is a big driver for what's happening.
While all these European leaders are courting India, it was not too long ago, just last month, when the Russian president, Vladimir Putin, was in India being hugged by Narendra Modi. Is Europe hoping to drive a wedge between India and Russia?
I wouldn't quite put it like that, no. I mean, that's a little bit crafty for European diplomacy, which isn't really that sharp. I think what Europe is hoping is that while India has traditionally had a very important relationship with Russia going back to the Cold War, it relies on Russian energy and weapons, that in a sense, Russia is a partner of declining importance. India needs investment, technology, things it used to get from the Americans, but it's not going to get those from the Russians. Russia doesn't have any money and its technology base isn't worth having. So in a sense, at the strategic level, I think what Europe hopes is that, maybe the Russian partnership will hold steady or decline over time, and that India will simply want to do more with the Europeans in the future. And I don't think that's a bad bet. I mean, I think that's probably where this will head.
Are the two sides on the same page when it comes to China?
I mean, yes, broadly speaking. I mean, I think it would be fair to say that Europe is more worried about the Russian security challenge and India is more worried about the China security challenge. But both India and Europe are worried about China, worried about Chinese coercion, worried about China's economic model. I mean, for India, it's a more pressing challenge because you have both the recent issues on the northern border, but also competition around South Asia. But yes, I mean, the mutual distrust of China is another factor that brings together the Europeans and the Indians.
And where do things stand between India and the United States? Because India had been slapped with a 25% trade tariff, a further 25% trade tariff for importing Russian oil. Then just recently, Donald Trump announced a 25% trade tariff for countries that are still doing business with Iran. So are tariffs on Delhi now 75%?
Tariffs on Delhi are high, and they're trying to do a deal to get round that. At the moment, that deal is basically stuck. As in, there is a deal that's on the table, and Trump has repeatedly said that he wants a better deal. I think the basic problem is that Trump is both a sort of strategic negotiator, but also quite impulsive, and he has decided that for a bunch of reasons that date back to India, in his view, not giving him enough credit for his role in diffusing the India-Pakistan border clash that happened last year. And he's still annoyed about that, and he's waiting for India to kind of play nice and come slightly on bended knee, and Modi isn't doing that. And so we're sort of in an impasse that I suspect will get solved. But at the moment, Trump is letting the Indians stew for a while, I think. It's that simple, really.
James, the US has a new envoy to India. Take a listen to what the new ambassador had to say on the relationship.
I've traveled all over the world with President Trump, and I can attest that his friendship with Prime Minister Modi is real. The United States and India are bound not just by shared interest, but by a relationship anchored at the highest levels. Real friends can disagree, but always resolve their differences in the end.
James, Sergio Gore seems to think that the two sides can kiss and make up, but has New Delhi simply lost the trust it had with Washington?
So I think in New Delhi, they're putting a lot of stead in the arrival of Ambassador Designate Gore, because what's happened is that India used to have this incredibly privileged access to the United States, particularly in the Biden years, excellent relationships across the piece at the top, but also through the National Security Councils and elsewhere. And all of that kind of collapsed when Trump came into power. They lost a lot of their access. And so part of the problem is that you're in this impasse over the deal. You know, India wants to get the deal done because it wants stability. Trump is making them wait, and they're hoping, I think, that the arrival of Ambassador Gore, who arrived in Delhi last week, will be a kind of key to opening this knot. I mean, it might happen, it might not, this might drag on for a little bit longer. But I think the basic point that the ambassador made is correct, which is that both India and the United States still have a pretty clear strategic self-interest in repairing the damage that has been done to some degree. And so I think at some point that's the most likely scenario. Whether or not the ambassador himself is the key that unlocks it or it's something else, we'll just have to see.
Yeah, it was interesting because just last year, India was so happy with Trump's return. James, we're going to have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thanks for your time.
With movie awards season in full swing in Hollywood, we've seen K-pop envoys on the red carpet as the blockbuster K-pop Demon Hunters picked up 2 Golden Globe Awards in Los Angeles. Olivia Salazar-Winspear from our culture team is here to tell us more about what this means for the industry. Olivia, it was already Netflix's most watched film. These awards must be a huge victory for K-pop and Korea in general.
Well, Delano, yes and no, because it was indeed very symbolic to see those 3 stars on the red carpet, Rayami, EJ and Audrey Nunes, among Hollywood royalty, of course. But as for a Korean victory per se, not quite, because while the film was co-directed by Korean-Canadian director Maggie Kang, it included some Korean and Korean-American voice actors. This was an American production made by Sony Pictures Animation, distributed by Netflix, and they've been benefiting from the film's enormous financial success, which hasn't really trickled down that much to Korean entertainment companies. But of course, it is based on Korean themes, Korean aesthetics, and it's certainly been a PR boost for brand Korea. In fact, the ramen noodles that the main characters actually eat quite often in the film have seen their noodles sell out. They did a limited edition version, so they've done very well out of it. And globally, we can't underestimate the success of this film, because as well as that award for Best Song at the Golden Globes, Best Original Song, that track Golden topped the US Billboard Hot 100 for weeks last year. And so it really shows us K-pop's global reach.
Now, K-pop is riding high globally, but the genre itself back at home domestically is facing kind of a slump. Why is that?
Well, yeah, when it comes to music sales, K-pop's on a downward trajectory in South Korea, which is its major base. Physical album sales have been falling almost 10% year on year since 2019, which some see as its peak. As you can see, in the space of just 2 years, album sales have gone from 116 million down to 93, and then last year, just 86 million. Other metrics measuring fan engagement, like social media use, subscription sites for paid content, have also been slipping too. Now, why? Some people say that this is because the industry is saturated. K-pop's been around for about 15 years, and the musics and the groups can feel a bit formulaic because they've put a lot of time and investment into streamlining the production model. as opposed to developing sort of new, exciting, creative talent. So the content all ends up feeling quite similar. A second reason is that the industry's been hit by quite a few scandals. The suicides of some K-pop stars, disputes between band members and their management. For example, the group New Jeans split with their label and then was sued for breach of contract, which really tarnished the industry. It was a big controversy and also raised important questions about workers' rights in entertainment. And then the third reason, paradoxically, I'd say, is that K-pop's international expansion could actually be linked to its demise at home because the music's not really being written to appeal to a Korean audience so much anymore. It's often in English, aimed at this global audience, you know? So the fans are disengaging with the genre, which some of them say lacks authenticity and is made for export.
So do you see any positive signs on the horizons, new musicians potentially who could sort of give the sector a boost, a revival?
Well, not really, but there is one old supergroup that could come in and save the day. That's BTS, of course, because the megastars have just announced that they are touring this year after 4 years out of the spotlight. Of course, the 7 members of BTS did their compulsory military service. There's likely to be a new album from them. And while they have tour dates all over the world, 10 cities in North America, they're only playing 2 towns in South Korea. But their return, whatever happens, is very significant. It's been estimated that the group pours $4.6 billion into the Korean economy annually. So the engine of the K-pop industry, we can say, BTS, is back. That should be good for everyone.
That's one to watch. Thank you very much for that, Olivia Salazar-Winspear there. Now, it's rare to see a Japanese leader let loose and go viral, but that's exactly what happened when Prime Minister Sanae Takahashi had a jam session with her Korean counterpart. The pair drummed 2 K-pop hits, including Dynamite and Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters. This as South Korean President Lee Jae-myung wrapped up an official visit to Japan. He gifted Prime Minister Takahashi a drum set and they exchanged signed drumsticks after their gig. That's it for this edition of Access Asia. From all of us on the team, thank you very much for watching.